It was just another Tuesday afternoon. I was on the sofa, scrolling through home renovations I could no longer afford, when my phone buzzed with the call that changed everything. It was Marcus, my soon-to-be ex-husband, but the voice on the other end was a strained whisper, punctuated by a frantic beeping sound. "Elara," he gasped. "I'm in the emergency room. It's my heart. They said it's serious. They're rushing me to surgery." Within the first 3 sentences, my peaceful world was replaced by chilling anxiety. Not for his health. I'd long stopped caring about that, but for his timing. He was pushing through the divorce papers with a reckless urgency, and this sudden, dramatic medical emergency felt like another calculated move in his relentless attempt to hide every single dime. I should have known the man who cheated on me with my own colleague would never face divorce proceedings with honesty. What he didn't realize was that I had already found the legal loophole that would freeze his entire world. Hi, I'm Elara, and you're listening to my story. Thank you for joining me on this painful journey. I'd love to know where you are listening from, so please drop a comment below and tell me your location. It helps me feel a little less alone in telling this. Marcus was a successful tech entrepreneur. His company, Apex Solutions, was worth millions, and for 15 years I had been his primary, unpaid support system, his event planner, and his emotional punching bag. When I finally found proof of his affair with the 23-year-old marketing assistant, the marriage didn't just end, it evaporated in a cloud of bitter resentment.
He filed for divorce first, and his strategy was clear: delay and conceal. He inflated his business expenses, transferred funds into offshore accounts, and constantly postponed mediation dates. He wanted me to give up to take a media settlement just to escape the financial limbo. My lawyer, Mr. Fay Thompson, was good, but slow. He was focused on the standard 50-50 split, fighting over spreadsheets and outdated valuations. I was focused on justice. Marcus was a narcissist. His greatest weakness was his need for control and comfort. If I could take those away, I could make him panic. When Marcus called me from the emergency room, my instinct screamed fake. Marcus was a marathon runner. His heart was pristine. The hospital beeps were too loud, too theatrical, but the message behind the performance was the real threat. He was trying to use a medical crisis to rush the judge into finalizing the divorce, based on his rigged, lowball financial statements. He knew a judge would sympathize with a gravely ill petitioner. The next morning I drove straight to the hospital he named. The admissions desk gave me the same polite blank stare I'd come to expect from his gatekeepers. Marcus Winters? No record of him being admitted for a cardiac emergency. The mask was off. The game was on. My initial feeling of shame, that I had fallen for yet another of his lies, was instantly replaced by a cold, calculating rage. I realized I couldn't rely on the standard legal playbook. I needed a shock, an escalation that would hit him where it hurt. His wallet. I spent the next 48 hours submerged in legal filings, arcane property statutes, and court precedents. I wasn't an attorney, but I was determined, fueled by 15 years of suppressed anger and coffee. The breakthrough came late on a Wednesday night, buried deep in the regional law library's digital archives. It was an obscure, rarely used section of the state's marital property code, often called the preservation of assets during dissolution statute. Most people relied on a standard restraining order, which often still left a lot of liquid cash accessible. This law, however, was designed for high-net-worth cases where one party exhibited a pattern of asset dissipation prior to an official court hearing.
It required 4 things. 1. Evidence of intent to hide assets. 2. The discovery of new, significant assets not previously disclosed which Marcus's phantom offshore accounts hinted at. 3. The immediate need to prevent financial distress to the other spouse, me. And 4. A statement detailing a specific, egregious act of deception designed to expedite the divorce. Marcus's faked heart attack was the smoking gun I needed for number 4. It was not just deception, it was fraud perpetrated against the court's good faith. I spent the whole night compiling my affidavit. I included printouts of the hospital's admission denial, screenshots of his lawyer's aggressive rush job emails, and a detailed chronology of all the money he had loaned to his new girlfriend and her family money I had tracked years ago but hadn't dared to mention until now.
I went to Mr. Thompson's office at 8 in the morning, practically shoving the 3-inch thick binder onto his mahogany desk. He looked at me, then at the title of the statute I had highlighted in neon green. with a mixture of professional interest and deep skepticism. "Elara," he said slowly, putting on his reading glasses, "this is highly unusual. The courts haven't used this particular motion in a case this size in over 20 years. It's aggressive. It will infuriate your husband." "Good," I replied. "Then it's working. File it immediately." Mr. Thompson, seeing the conviction in my eyes and the evidence in the binder, agreed. We filed an emergency motion to preserve marital assets, attaching my detailed affidavit and the statutory language. The judge, a no-nonsense woman known for her strict adherence to ethical conduct, signed the order late that Thursday afternoon. The judicial power of that signature was absolute and terrifying. The court didn't just issue a temporary financial restraining order. It granted what was called a global financial freeze. The mandate was immediate. Every single financial institution, from his primary bank to his offshore wealth manager, was notified. All personal checking accounts, all investment portfolios, all business lines of credit, everything was locked down. He could no longer move, spend, or access any money associated with the marital estate until a full, honest accounting was complete. The only exception was a court-mandated weekly living allowance of $500, which was paid directly to him by the court office. I didn't hear from Marcus for a full 24 hours after the order was executed. The silence was louder than any of his yelling. Then the phone rang. It wasn't a strained whisper this time. It was a roar. "What did you do?" he screamed. His voice was laced with pure, unadulterated panic. "They won't let me access my accounts. I can't pay the staff. I can't pay my rent. I can't even pay the bill for the hotel I booked for the fake heart attack." 7 shocking words. I can't even pay the bill for the hotel I booked for the fake heart attack. The man who owned a multi-million-dollar company, who boasted about his private jet access, couldn't pay a few $100s for a shoddy hotel room he had used as a set for his pathetic little deception. The twist was complete. He had tried to rush the divorce by pretending to face death. I responded by giving him a taste of financial death. The fallout was spectacular. His company, Apex Solutions, immediately entered a liquidity crisis. Payroll was missed. Vendors were furious.
His new girlfriend, who had suddenly realized her sugar daddy was now poorer than a college student, cleared out of his rented luxury apartment faster than a rogue trade deal. The poetic justice unfolded slowly, deliciously. The court forced an external, unbiased forensic auditor to review every single transaction he had made in the last 5 years. The offshore accounts were immediately seized and repatriated to the marital estate. His lies, his manipulations, and his elaborate deceptions were all laid bare, not just to me, but to the judge and to his furious business partners. He thought he could use a life-and-death crisis to humiliate me and steal my future. Instead, he lost everything, not just the assets, but his reputation, his control, and the respect of everyone who had ever admired his success.
He was utterly ruined by his own greed and his inability to fathom that a person he dismissed as just a wife could find a law he didn't even know existed. The divorce wasn't settled in weeks. It took over a year, but the power dynamics had flipped completely. Marcus was forced to comply with every demand, every disclosure, living off his $500 weekly allowance, while I controlled the entire estate. When the judge finally signed the final decree, awarding me a settlement so large it would secure my financial freedom for life, Marcus just stared straight ahead, his face hollow. He lost everything because he was too arrogant to be honest. For the first time in years, I slept knowing I didn't owe him forgiveness. I owed him nothing. I only owed the dusty legal archives I had spent a week digging through. Some people break families with affairs. Others rebuild them with little-known state statutes. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more tales of moral contrast and poetic justice, please subscribe to the channel.